Iraq war veteran Trevor Colt. Trevor, thanks so much for being with us today. Of course, J.D. Vance's comments have created a political storm in this country. Different people, of course, have different interpretations of what he was trying to say. What did you make of his comments?
Well, first of all, Tom, thanks for having me on. When I first saw it, I watched it several times, and to get my head in the right space, I didn't pick up what a lot of journalists picked up. Now, it's quite clear that a lot of journalists, and I like to point out that GB News, I put GB News on a different platform than the rest of the news stations, because GB News likes to get things the right way and put out the proper news. So I see all these other journalists jumping on the bandwagon here. I actually believe that what he said was perfect. He said he did not mention UK. He's fully aware as an ex-military man that the UK have fought gallantly alongside the US and Canada in Afghan, but he didn't mention us. And people jump on the bandwagon and saying he did have already made up their mind in their decision to go against him because of what happened in the White House a few days ago with Zelensky. So people are just waiting to attack the president because of what happened. Now, whenever I listened to J.D. Vance, he did say European countries with no combat experience. Now, if we were to tell the truth, the UK probably doesn't have battlefield experience at the minute, because we left Afghanistan several years ago, and a lot of those combat veterans have actually left, and a lot of those commanders have left. So if we want to get this 100% correct, then he may be right. But I do reckon he was having a go at other countries like Germany and other countries in Europe that haven't got combat experience. And the likes of putting 20,000 troops in peacekeeping roles, well, that would be a gift, isn't it? Because I do believe that right now, as we talk, the UK only has just over 20,000 troops, which are infantry battalions, which can actually fight. So I do believe people jumped on the bandwagon to try and have a go at the president because the president had an argument with Zelensky. And this is just
no, Trevor, I see your point about the way in which people the lens through which people are viewing J.D. Vance after the events of Friday in the White House and the ensuing days as well. It is just, however, that the specific number he mentions, that 20,000 number, is, of course, the proposal that has had a lot of media coverage of the Franco-British proposal for troops on the ground. Countries like Germany have very publicly said they don't want to commit troops to Ukraine. The only two countries of the European theatre that have publicly said they would be willing to put troops on the ground, 10,000 apiece, from France and from the UK, are those two countries. Could that be perhaps why people think, due to the specific number and the comment about European countries, that J.D. Vance could have had in his head at that time Britain and France?
Well, Tom, it's quite clear that J.D. Vance is quite angry. I honestly don't believe he was specifically having a dig at the UK. It came out to look like that. But politicians are already up in their arms whenever they're saying about this is wrong what he said. I think he should have clarified exactly who he meant rather than leave it open for people to make their own decisions. I've just listened to Nigel Farage say that we have, and even Nigel got it wrong, because we haven't invested the same amount of money as the US. We haven't had the same amount of deaths as the US. We've put in the same amount of effort, but a lot of people are getting their figures and information mixed up here. This is definitely a fallout. J.D. Vance is quite clearly angry because America, this was the first time we've seen a deal in the main media where he was trying to get percentage of Ukraine minerals, which fell apart live on air. And I honestly believe that's because Zelensky had already made deals with different leaders throughout the world. You got to bear in mind that Zelensky's been flying.
Oh, I'm sorry, we seem to have a bit of a freeze there, Trevor. I just wanted to finally put to you, because you mentioned what Nigel Farage said. I've got his words here. He said, pro rata, our size against America's. We put the same number of men and women in. We suffered the same losses. We stood by America all those 20 years and put in the same contribution. Pro rata. That would be per person, I think, around a sixth of what America put in. He does have a point there that, you know, well, of course, you've served. You know how strongly and how diligently British and American troops have fought side by side.
100%. American troops are fantastic on the battlefield. There's far too many of them. That's a good thing, though. We work hand in hand. They're professional. They're great. I just think at the minute, Tom, no one wants to see troops get killed. Nobody wants a war. I think at the minute, politicians are just falling apart. Everyone's arguing. They can't seem to get on. And what's going to happen is ordinary families and soldiers are going to suffer and people are going to die because they cannot sit down like adults around a table and negotiate.
Well, let's hope that people can get back around that table. Let's hope that something does come. Very fraught days of diplomacy ahead. But for now, Iraq War veteran Trevor Colt, really appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks indeed for your thoughts and your expertise on these issues.